Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I have a returning guest, somebody I consider a personal friend, mentor, advisor, all of the above, and most of all of you love hearing his story. So let's welcome Jason Pritchard back to the show. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, Zuber. How are you, man?
I'm doing very well. So
Good.
this request for your time, which I always appreciate, came about because you put out an IG, I think it was an IG or Instagram story. And
The
it was,
story, yeah.
yeah, it was basically, hey, I'm a self-made man. I'm proud of it. But, and here's the big but, you never do it alone. And I'm like, God
That's right.
darn it, Jason nailed it again. So why you just bring these simple things out. It's like, he just gets it. So why don't you kind of share the IG story in a couple of minutes, what you meant by that? Because it was several, I guess, frames or pictures or whatever. So break it down for us.
Yeah, I think with the Instagram stories, I really try to just be authentic and share what I'm feeling. And I always feel like that tends to resonate and connects with the people that follow me on social media. So I think that day was just a really good day for me where, sometimes you have those days where everything's kind of going right. It was after the event that you guys put on, and I made some really good connections with a lot of the people that were there. I got a chance to talk with what I would consider some of the like higher level investors in the Fresno area that are kind of doing similar things that we do. And, I think we got close on a deal that I did, and I think we locked that up and got the contract in. So it was just like one of those days where everything was going right, and so I was driving home and I just thought to myself, like, gosh, I'm just so grateful for everything that I've done. And looking back on the last 5 years and, just the trajectory of my career, I wanted to express a lot of gratitude. And for me, it was a reflection of my faith, which was a big deal. And so I was just thanking God for all of the blessings that I had kind of had in my life at that time. And I do resonate and associate very strongly with being a self-made entrepreneur. For me, that's something that I'm very proud of because I literally started from the bottom and I built this business from the ground up, just brick by brick. And so for me, that's something that's very important to me, but, wouldn't have happened without, my faith and my relationship with God and all my family and friends and everybody that supported me. So, you hear all of these things about being self-made, but like you said, it's never something that you do on your own. There's always people there supporting you. So it was kind of in that vein.
Well, that's awesome. I actually didn't know that was going to be the story. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So that's pretty amazing. But let's go back to the notion of self-made because there's a lot of talk on social media and YouTube and Facebook and IG and all these other platforms about everybody wants to throw entrepreneur on their business card.
Sure.
And probably most of them, when they think that, without knowing it, they think solopreneur, right? I'm going to do something. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to be a flipper or whatever it is. I don't think you ever thought that way. Even when you were starting back in the beginning and you were on credit card debt, because I remember your first interview,
Yeah.
you were always a networker first. I don't know if you realized that, but at least that's the feeling I've always gotten. Were you, when you were starting way back when, did you already work this way, or did it just kind of morph as you matured, or what do you think?
You know what it is for me? It was always, I tie a lot of the decisions that I make and how I'm trying to structure my business back to my corporate background. And just when you work in corporate America and you work for, these large companies for as long as I did, 15 plus years at two very big companies, you see all of the things that go into, building out a company that size. And so I knew that I never wanted to do everything on my own, and I never wanted to wear all the hats. I think we all kind of do that at the beginning because I was bootstrapping everything, like you can hear from, my story, like it was just me at the beginning and we're just trying to stretch every dollar as far as we could. So I knew that I eventually wanted to start hiring people out. I knew I eventually wanted to start making relationships and implementing some of like the management and the structure and the routine that you get from being in corporate America, but not having like all of the politics and not having all of the, just the drawbacks and the things that I did not like about having a corporate job and being in corporate structure. So I'm trying to find the balance and take the things that I really liked and enjoyed and apply it towards my business. And, it's working for the most part. So it's good. I'm happy.
Yeah, there's no question it's working. The other thing, I don't know if you realize this, because sometimes when you're in the moment, self-reflection, it doesn't hit you, but I'll say it for you. You are in the top 1% of Fresno investors or flippers or whatever you consider that crowd that was in the parking lot, at that event. You
Sure.
are, and you have earned your place amongst those. So, I don't want you thinking that, you're still a rung below. You're not. You're in that top echelon. And I
Yeah,
just
and
I want you to know.
I do feel like obviously I've come a long way, and I can just, that moment, that day especially, and the gratitude that I had was it was just coming from a place of reflection and kind
Sure.
of looking back at all of the events that I've gone to,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, Mike. And I've gone to some where, and you've been to some of these, there's like 5 people in the room, and
Yeah.
you show up and you're like, what the hell did I come to? What did I even come to this thing for? And like, why this? And
Yeah.
then you go and you show up and you feel like maybe you don't belong, and you
Yeah.
see people that like, hey, this guy's really busy and he's doing a lot of deals. Like, how am I ever gonna, ever even bring any value to this person or add anything to this person's business? And so it just to see things come full circle and to kind of be, part of that crowd and that upper echelon crowd makes me feel really good. And it was, the post tied back to that. It was just such a moment of gratitude for me, and just knowing and understanding like how my faith played a part, but like, all this other things that we've talked about, like my
Yeah.
wife, my parents, relationships with people like you, all of these things and all these seeds that you've been planting over the years, when they start to finally bear fruit and things really start working the way you envisioned them working at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great place to be, man, when you start seeing things click like that.
Yeah, and I think it's just beginning for you. I think the momentum that you started, you're not going to stop. I think the momentum is going to continually evolve and push forward, because you still have that humble side of you, which I hope you never lose. Right? There are
Yeah.
some people in your bracket now that aren't freaking humble,
Yep.
and
I
that
agree.
will hurt them as the
Yep.
market turns, and people don't like working with them, because when you have options of people that are humble and help and all of that, and there's a choice, the choice will always go to you if there's a 50-50 coin flip. So never
That's
lose
right.
that.
I appreciate that. And I think that comes from how I was raised. My wife keeps me grounded. Sometimes, I can get a big head. Sometimes I start feeling myself a little bit too much when things
Smack.
start rolling too smooth. Yeah. So, she does a good job of keeping me in check, but I think it goes back to, being raised the right way. It goes back to aligning yourself with other people that are similar to you. I would echo the same thing about you. You come from a place of like, how can I help people?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you just try to help as many people as you can, that raises your value in the market, because everybody recognizes that you're there, and there's no strings attached to the help that you're providing them, and just things just end up coming full circle. It's been proven to me over and over and over again in my life.
Yeah, there's no question you're going to be doing this for as long as you want to. Your success is only going to grow and mushroom, because no market's going to take you out. I saw people that were the overly confident, egotistical, I'm better than you folks, get washed out 08 to 10.
Yeah.
And I get none of that from you, because you're just going to keep being you. It's just who you are. Thanks. Shout out mom and dad and a wife for keeping you grounded. So that's pretty awesome. Right. So the next thing I want to talk about for you is you had some massive goals, because I think we talked in December last year. It might have been January. And you said you're going to go from 25 to 50, which is a double.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm going, oh, that's 2 doors. That's 2 doors a month. Oh, by the way, you don't know you're going on with interest rates, all of these things I was thinking about in January. I'm like, if anybody could do it, it's Jason, but that's going to be tough. So where are we sitting today?
So I don't want to jinx it, because the deal hasn't closed. We're set to record tomorrow, but we're supposed to be closing on 8 more units tomorrow. Everything's there, so it's all lined up. So I'm not really worried about it. And with that deal, those 8 units will get me to 52 total doors by mid-November, man. So yeah, last year I remember having that conversation with you, and the first conversation that we had ended up leading to the relationship with the lender that funded the very last rental that I bought that got me to 25. And it was like December 28th, we closed on that thing, dude. And it was like 3 days before the end of the year. So I'm glad I work well under pressure, but I'm glad I didn't have to deal with it. And we kind of got it out of the way. And now we can, now we can focus on bigger, better things for next year.
Well, now you're at accelerator money, man. You remember those old times. This is, you got 6 weeks to really drop the hammer and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 8 units, is it just an eightplex? Is it 2 quads? I mean,
No, it's a cool, it was a cool package. It was a 5-unit building,
okay.
a duplex, and then a single family, and they all neighbor each other. So it's,
Oh, nice.
3 separate APNs, 3 addresses. They're all right next door to each other. The 5 units are pretty much fully remodeled with the exception of 2 that need a little work. And then the house and the duplex both need work. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do. I may piece out the house and just turn around, fix up the house, resell it, make a few bucks, and then roll that into the other 7. So, where the dust settles, like who knows? Like right now we're at 52, but I'm still unsure about what the exit strategy is on those 3 properties. So one way or another, we're going to be over there just with where I'm at. So I'm not worried about it.
That's awesome. So direct marketing, MLS.
No, it was a relationship with wholesaler. I bought it from a wholesaler, guy that we know. Shout out to Matt Garabedian, man. He called me up with this thing, and we've been bouncing some deals and think back and forth with each other. We've done some stuff jointly together, and he kind of knows what I'm in the market for, and that was one that kind of fit the bill for me. And so he definitely structured a win-win deal. He made nice profit on it. I bought it at a number that made sense for me. Seller was happy with where they're at. It's kind of one of those textbook deals that you draw up, and everything worked out great. So it was good.
Everybody wins. That's the whole model.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. If you work with Jason Pritchard, everybody's going to win. That's the net of all that. So do you think you get to 55 and you're going to go really accelerator and try to get to 55? Are you going to reset the goalpost for the rest of this 6 weeks, or are you just going to let things happen?
No, I'm going to let the dust settle for the rest of the year. I have other stuff in the pipeline, so we probably will end up higher than where we're at based off of what's in escrow right now and what I feel like we're really close on. So I think that we'll probably end up between where we're at now and somewhere around 55.
Yeah.
I have some really good relationships with some sellers that I've bought some rentals from over the last 2 years. One of them is getting ready to offload everything, and we've kind of pre-negotiated a little bit. Basically the last few rentals that they have. So I think that's going to be like 15 or 16 doors, and they're just waiting for the beginning of 2020 to come for tax purposes, and they just want to sell off everything. So I feel like I'm going to come out of the gate pretty strong.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to set the bar high, man. I feel like I have this conversation with everybody that I've been talking to recently, and I think we set kind of these arbitrary limits and goals, and the more that I do that, the more I realize that it's just these own limits that we put on ourselves, right? And I said, like, if I had said 60, I probably would have got to 60 instead of 50. You know what I mean? And so I just feel like I'm just going to keep setting the bar really high and try to be aggressive, but never reckless. And, we're always managing like what the cash flow is on these things versus the number of doors. I take that from you. You've always said that cash flow is king. I believe cash flow is king. So I don't just want a big portfolio of properties that aren't performing.
Yeah.
So we're constantly evaluating where we're at, and we'll sell off stuff as we need to, and keep identifying the model of the property that makes the most sense for us. So
So you I'm going to lead the witness and see if we end up in the place I think we're going to lead to. So if you're looking at 2020, which, oh, by the way, is a new decade, which just shocks me to no end. We're going to enter a new decade. Do you know what you're going to kind of set for yourself? You're just going to throw out another double and go 100, or what do you think?
I think 100 is the number. Yeah, that feels right. That feels right for me for a lot of reasons. It's doubled every year pretty much. If you look back to like the beginning. So in the first year, I bought, I want to say 4 units. Year 2, we got to 9. Year 3, we got to 25. And then, we're going on to the tail end of year 4. So we're going to be at 50. So it feels like it makes sense to do it. And why would I not do it? You know what I mean? And I'm slowly but surely buying bigger packages of properties too. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I got to buy 50 houses in order to get there. But so 100 is going to be the number. I already had that. I already had that number kind of in place.
That's awesome. The one thing I would coach, ask, suggest, whatever word you choose to hear is, and I've said this before, and I think you kind of alluded to it earlier. I think too many people get wrapped around the axle of a unit count. Right. And I did that myself. I mean, you saw my goals earlier in the year. I put out a unit count number as well. And I'm like, I got mid-year and I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. I could have 100 units that aren't performing, but everybody's not going to know. So I would
Yeah.
tell you to maybe add or put a comma or whatever you want to do, and pick a cash flow number. Like, let's just say, for example, you're cash flowing $8,000 with these 51, right? And I'm talking net, whatever that
Yep.
is, right?
Everything. Yep.
And think about what you want to do with that next year, because when you do that, Jason, you actually have 3 options. Obviously, you can buy more stuff. You can also go back in and reposition debt, right? Take debt from X to Y and your cash flow goes up. And you also have rent increases. So you can affect the cash flow number 3 different ways, where if you just have a unit count, you could pressure yourself into doing bad deals. And if we get into an environment that's a little toppy or negative and you don't see it coming, or you're a month late, just think about that, please.
No, it's great advice. And I learned that lesson a little bit this year when I was trying to get from 9 to 25. And I kind of shifted the business a little bit, where I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to keep everything. Like, I don't care. Like, if it looks like anything close to making sense, I'm just going to keep it as a rental, instead of being a little bit more, making a decision that was more maybe financially sound and really analyzing the numbers. And I ended up selling off like 3 units this year that were high equity but low cash flow, because I decided to keep them. And I had a year worth of kind of like financial analysis, and I realized, like, these things don't really throw off any cash. And like, what if the water heater goes out? Yeah. And if I'm only cash flowing $100 after everything, the water heater basically wipes the cash flow out for the entire year,
For the year. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm done. So like stuff like that, when I've got 40 grand in equity in the house, like why not just sell it and then like really dial in the profile of the property that makes the most sense. And so we're trying to do that. And it's like you said, it's a big balancing act. It's trying to balance an aggressive goal for growth, the cash flow, making smart financial decisions. I think every year that I get into the business, I feel like I get better and smarter, and I'm able to make some of these decisions. So I agree, man. I think ultimately for me, all I care about is how big do we get the check that comes in every single month from these. How big can we make that number in a responsible way? Not just, rating the cash reserves and like, just leaving nothing in there, but how can we do it and have it be responsible and have it be something sustainable over the long term, so we're constantly not reevaluating the number. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun game. I really like it a lot.
So let me ask it this way. I won't ask you to put up your cash flow number, but do you think you can double your cash flow year to year?
I think so, yes, because we've been very, very conservative with the number that we pulled out this year. And we're probably going to end up paying a little bit of a bonus. Yeah. So I think instead of like paying out a bonus at the end of the year, I'm going to ratchet the number up a little bit more. So we're going to get kind of a bump at the beginning of the year anyways, because I think we ran them on the more conservative end. So yeah, I think we'll be able to double what we're making cash flow wise. No problem.
Because I think frankly, that's the goal that means something to you and your wife, right? You and your family. Yes. It's that you don't write checks based on having 100 units, right?
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's an ego number. It is. Like you said it. I heard you say that one time, and it's a vanity number, and it's about ego. And so you try not to let your ego get the best of you. I'm the kind of person that I need to have a target to hit. So, when you've been in sales as long as I have, you know what I mean? Like you've got to set big numbers and big targets. Otherwise, my brain doesn't work any other way. So we've got to have something to strive for.
We are wired the same way. I had a quota since I was 14 years old, selling freaking washers and dryers and maintenance agreements. And I know what it's like. So I get it. But yeah, I've actually dropped, again, just as mine, I've dropped unit count for my spreadsheet. It doesn't matter. It's the cash flow number.
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
that's right.
Right. I tried to increase my cash flow $2,500 in the last 6 months. And, I'll pick a more significant number next year. But think about that. Seriously, think about what that might be. Because I think
I will.
Because it frankly pushes your brain more, because buying units is a transaction, which you've now done hundreds of times, but managing your portfolio, because you could think about which ones do I want to remodel and increase rents, right? You take a house that was at $895 up to $1,050, there's $150, $125, whatever you want, right? You can reposition debt. I mean, there's a lot more things that you could do if you have a cash flow number. And I think you would find it fun if you did that.
I do. I like that. And the other thing, and you talked about increasing rents right now. Like I've only increased rents on, I think maybe 2 units of the, not including anything that I bought this year. So I have to go back and just reevaluate like, hey, you know, like I never, I never rented anything out below market rent. If anything, I was probably on like above like what like
Yeah.
the normal rentals in those
Because you're
neighborhoods were getting. So
remodeling, yeah.
exactly, right. But I know now, especially the stuff that I bought early on, the rents have gone up in those areas, you know? And so every one of those little things are these little dials and knobs and levers that we can twist and adjust. I think between that and some of the other things that we're going to change, we'll see an increase. And then the excess unit count is going to be an increase, and then just stabilizing and fooling around with some tinkering with some of the other stuff is going to be.
Because if you get used to doing this now, because you're right into that year 4 now, where you'll be able to dial up year 1 and year 2 acquisitions. But what you're going to learn this year is going to be so much more to you next year, like 21, because you're going to just have a bigger unit count, right? You move $50 on 3 units, no big deal. But it's
whatever
30 units or 33 units.
It's a big deal.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, so I could tell you that probably like if whatever my increase in cash flow number will be, and I'll share that on January, probably 50% will be from new acquisitions. And then the other 50% will be either lowering my debt service on some of my commercial buildings or raising rents. So yeah, I think this is the time for you to kind of add that to your tool bag, because you really haven't had to do it yet.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Very cool. So how can people follow Jason Pritchard? Because you are an amazing human being. Is it IG or Facebook, or what's the best way for people to follow you?
Both of them. I try to put content out equally on both. Like for like day-to-day stuff, IG is really good because I've got my stories that are posting and that type of stuff. I do more like long-form content video and like written posts on Facebook, but either one. So it's just Jason Pritchard on Facebook, Jason Pritchard on Instagram. Those are the 2 best ways to connect with me, and shoot me a message if you got questions, man. I'm happy to help anybody out that has a question for me. So
excellent, guys. And what I'll do is I'll link some of Jason's videos below, because you need to go back to video. I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 on my channel, where he talks about his story. Check out where he's come from to where he is today. It is amazing. Jason, thank you very much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Deborah. We'll talk to you.
You got it.